Actually, I
Thank.
remembered one funny story that I wanted to reiterate here that Swamiji keeps telling. One person dies and he goes to. He has a choice between hell and heaven. So he sees heaven and he sees there full clouds and one old man sitting there in the name of God, and that's all. It's pretty much empty, and then on this side he's seeing hell and he's seeing, oh my God, there is a angel singing hallelujah hallelujah, so much party is happening, and full night they are celebrating, and he's saying, oh my God, hell looks very much more entertaining. So then he says, I want to go to hell. So he goes to hell, and then as soon as he goes to hell, they some two asuras come and start take him and start dipping him in hot oil and putting him inside. And he's like, wait, what is this? This is not what I wanted. And then they said, he said, no, I thought this is supposed to be what you showed there, with the dancing and partying all the time. And then the Asuras say, actually, that is our marketing department. This is the real hell. So that I got reminded of exactly how that story when he talked about it. I just wanted to say. Go ahead, yeah, Rajshekhar, yeah, you can speak.
In a
Thank you,
slightly different version, they will say like, then you are in probation. Now you are doing the real job.
thank you, Maharaj. Okay, this is conversion and enriching. It's a beautiful subject. So why conversion? Why enriching? Hinduism from time immemorial it is alive there. Still, it's one of the only ancient religion or thought current still alive in this globe. Why conversion came? What is conversion? The religions which followed one holy book, one God, they only resort to conversion. Hindus never resorted to conversion because it is life positive. Hinduism is a life positive science which enriches the people from time immemorial. The knowledge was shared, even the wealth was shared. Only those, because India 1,000 years back it was very wealthy, very knowledgeable, they came to loot us. Maybe it is the Christianity through colonialism or Islamism through brutal force. They came from dry deserts. They don't have anything to survive. So they joined together and they came here to loot the temples and the society and swindle the income daringly. The mission, actually the colonialism, they came for business. They started while doing business. They understood how much wealth is here. They made use of diabolical ideas to divide and rule and brought the government also here, took over the entire country and looted all the wealth created. But again, after some time, India started creating wealth again. But these people, they loot. They don't share with the people. That's one thing. That's why they are going for conversion. Whereas we are not going for conversion because we are not a one God or one Guru. We have different thought currents. It's a democratic system. Why we are doing Vakyartha Sadas and Jivartha Sadas? Vakyartha Sadas is Kandana Mandana. Like Shankara and the another person has had it in the Varanasi. So we discuss to find out which is truth. Jivatha Sadas is we already had a consensus, come to a doctrine which is beneficial to the community at large, the whole globe. Then to deepen the understanding and broaden the understanding, we are doing Jivartha Sadas. This is a time system immemorial. That is why another thing, we are not, Hinduism is a way of life. There is no question of conversion. There is only enriching. We need not think about conversion. Why? Because Jnanasthana is not done and brought as a Hindu. Hinduism is a way of life. It's a dharma. It's a satya. So whoever follows this way of life, they themselves can declare as Hindus. So we need not convert any people. There are many people coming and following Hinduism now why this Christianity is very daring now. We have shown a beautiful video. They are in desperation. It's because of desperation, they are coming out openly. Previously, they were doing the cheating, cunning manner. Now they have to come because in their own area, they lost the footing. People are become atheist and agnostic in Western countries. German, they say 50% of the people are atheist and agnostic. They don't go to the church. It is happening in USA now, everywhere. So they are coming to Asia and Africa, where the mass is more and it is easy to do conversion by colluding with the political setup here and bureaucratical setup here. But India is awakened. I think there's no problem anymore. So we have to only enrich. The system of enriching, as Swamiji is doing. See, everywhere, Anadan. Just you see in Kanjipuram, Athivaradar came once in 40 years. Lakhs of people were coming. The hotels are people, they cannot give food. But you see, many people are coming and giving food. I went there. Every street corner, the 3-4 groups are standing and giving very hot, hygienic food. But when a calamity comes in USA, people are not coming and helping. In 2015, I saw in Chennai, when the flood was there, man-made calamity was there. Everywhere, food was served, hot food were given. I was interacting with a cab driver. He says he is in a low-lying area. Even in my normal days, when I am earning good money, I never ate such a good food. People are coming by door and giving hot food, vegetarian food. That is because of the enriching is in our DNA. So there is no question for us to think about even conversion. Only we have to strengthen our enriching. And we have to, whatever it was there, the wealth of experience we are having, we have to bring it back. We have to revive it. And we should help the entire globe. That should be our aim and attitude. These people, these religions will never, it will on its own, it will fade away. Even if Islamic countries are educated now, they are going to foreign countries and they are escaping from the brutal force. It is happening. Even China is not Chinese going to USA, they become against China or North Korea. So this force, by force, converting is going to go out of the planet Earth. It's mainly because of social media, and we also have an incarnation come back to awaken the powers of human being. These powers are helping. We know by third year and by including Sankalpa Mantra, people have come out of cancer. This is my own experience. Yesterday, 4 people came here. When I was reading the Sankalpa Mantra, they said the building was shaking there where they were sitting. Actually, I given to them, give some video also. So that is what happened. This Gurukul system brought back, revived by Swamiji, and all the temple system is being revived by Swamiji. We are going to enriching in a large scale. Enriching is the only way. Conversion has no place in the planet Earth down 50 years. This is what I would like to emphasize. Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes, Aya. Thank you. Yes, Anandanaya, go ahead, Aya. Yes, the question is again, where is the line between enriching and conversion?
Yeah, that's a very nice question. I was also thinking about it while it's a very nice what came to my mind is when we say enriching, we make that person as when we say conversion, we make him to follow some other person.
The volume is not okay.
So that's it. Is it okay now?
Continue speaking, Aya.
The line between conversion and enriching, in conversion, we make the person to follow someone else, some other god. In enriching, we intend to make that person as God. We make that person to respect and make him as God. So it's all about objectifying and making that person different. Finds as enrich that person. We don't make him to came to some other villages. He enriched that very person becomes a god. That's where the key line difference between enriching and in conversion. He said you need to move from one setup to other setup. Wherever you are, you can continue.
Sorry, yeah. Actually, we're not able to follow because I think your voice is getting. If you can switch off your video, we want to hear your points. Yeah, you switch off your video, maybe your audio will be clearer. Go ahead.
Hope I'm audible now better.
So it is clear. Go ahead. You please start from the beginning of what you said. We want to hear it.
Yes. I was thinking about the line of difference between enriching and conversion. So when Maharaj was telling, and when Murli Ayya and Rashekar Ayya was telling about these 2 points, I was also thinking about it. The thing that came to my mind is, in enriching, we make that person as God. So that's what all our intention. We enrich that person and make him as God. That's it, over. In conversion, people are trying to capture a person and put him into some system, and he is not liberated. He's just in the same cycle, right? One other cycle, one other. So that's where the exact difference between enriching and conversion. That's what came to my mind.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. So we actually want to describe the first level enriching and some of the enriching activities that are there in Sri Kailasa. And one of the entry and the first things that you can enrich someone to connect with, if they want to get to know about what is Swamiji's contribution to the world, what is it that, why so many people are connecting to him, and what is it that is the message of Swamiji. Paramashivoham program is where it all begins. Somebody can register for Paramashivoham, but we wanted to first show the information in a small video about Paramashivoham. We'll show you the video. Thank you.
And these auspicious,
like how much cash you have, how much gold you have, how much money you have in the bank, what all properties you have, your secret passwords, passcodes, your strength secrets, you will tell only to your son or your daughter to whom you are going to give your inheritance. Same way, most important powerful secrets Paramashiva has given to his son Muruga, Subramanya, in Agama called Sarvajnanottaragama. All the powerful secrets the father will tell only to his son. It is too secret. I am going to open that Agama and give all the essence of all those secrets. Secrets of Charyapada lifestyle, secrets of Kriyapada, secrets of Yogapada, and secrets of Jnanapada. I am not only going to teach you, I am going to give you exactly what Paramashiva gave it to Subramanya. Because Paramashiva himself is manifesting through this being now, giving you all exactly what was given to Subramanya. Nothing is required from your side. Just sit like innocent Subramanya. Muruga at the feet of Paramashiva. I assure you, whatever was given to Subramanya, the whole life will be given to you now. Not just words, teachings, not even just experience, life itself. I am talking to each one of you sitting in your room. I will make you all Subramanya.
Nityanandam, we're back. So previously, before we were discussing about whether Hindus should accept religious conversion or not. And so in the course of the discussion, we had come to a question where what is the difference between conversion and enriching? Where is the line drawn from conversion and enriching? So fundamentally, if you look at it from, if you look at, take a step back and look at both of them, to a third person, to a very, excuse me, so to a third person, it almost looks the same, conversion and enriching. You're basically, in a way, preaching the other person about religion in a hope that they may or may not convert to your religion, accept your faiths and beliefs. It's not just necessarily officially converting themselves to your religion, but it's a term to make another person accept your beliefs and your faiths. So, as we have lived with Swamiji, we have the spiritual context, we have been imbibing Swamiji's truths continuously, we are able to decipher the difference and the why, how enriching is different from conversion. All the points which our panelists have given, Raja Maraj, Murli Ayya, Raj Shekhanaya, even Balasubramaniam Ayya had shared a beautiful point where people convert in other religions, they convert people to follow a different god, whereas in Hinduism, we make that person god. All of these are very valid points, but in terms, if when you take it to a third person view, someone who's neither a person who wants to convert or neither a Hindu, excuse me. So in the third person's view, when we look at it, in his eye, it might be difficult for him to conceive how our activity, the enriching we do, is very much different from the conversion which is done by other religions. So fundamentally, what is conversion and what is enriching? So conversion happens, the very space and context from which they bring out conversion is from the message. What when it comes to Christianity, what is the message they say? It's that we are all sinners and they are doing a good thing to all of us. They are helping all of us by understanding that only if we follow Jesus, He will be able to liberate us from our sins. We will be able to attain salvation. This is more or less the fundamental message which is conveyed in Christianity. Whereas in Hinduism, it doesn't matter who you follow, what your certain faiths or beliefs might be. The beauty about Hinduism is we follow multiple people, we follow multiple gods. You do not see a single Hindu following a single god. Even Shaivites, people who are practicing Shaivites in their home, you will see that they'll have a deity of Parashakti, they'll have Ganesha, they'll have Subramanya, they'll have the whole parivara of Kailasa. So there are people who separately worship Subramanya, separately worship Ganesha, but even those who worship Ganesha, they'll have an idol of Mahadeva as well. So this whole concept of worshipping a single entity, single devata, doesn't exist for us, because each and every individual Hindu, by default, they'll worship at least minimum 2 or 3 devatas, 2 or 3 gods and entities. So fundamentally, in our message itself, in our context, where like how Balasubramaniam Ayya had shared, where the conversion is changing your faiths and release your idealization from one to another, whereas Hinduism is basically changing your context altogether to fundamentally change. Finally, the way you live your life is up to you. Hinduism doesn't care or doesn't give much importance to the way you live your life personally, but it gives a lot of importance to the context from which you live your life, from the way you live your life, the thoughts you have every day. That is very important in Hinduism. When you wake up in the morning, the cognitions you're supposed to have. When you're in certain work, the cognitions you're supposed to have. The very relationship with life, the context which you maintain. All these things are what Hinduism focuses on and is where Hinduism matters. Enriching happens in those aspects and areas of life. You can still enrich a Christian with the Hindu beliefs, and they will be enriched, and they within Christianity itself will experience a much more deeper space and deeper level of consciousness. That is the power of Hinduism, where our context, our beliefs, our higher concepts and cognitions are not constricted to any one religion and any one faith, because it is a science. Hinduism is basically a science, where it is the greatest science actually, where it helps you live and vibrate in the highest frequency. Because see, we ourselves, we do not, if you take each and every one of us individually, we ourselves don't follow a single deity properly. One day we'll worship Shiva, next day we'll worship Devi, another day we'll go to Ganesha. So we ourselves do not worship a single devata properly. We will worship them continuously. But as per our mood, we are given the freedom, and we enjoy that freedom of worshipping multiple devatas, multiple deities. So Hinduism doesn't really give much importance to which devata you follow, but it gives a lot of importance from the context from which you worship the devata. So that is very important. So even with this context, if you take in Hinduism, Christianity is also just another religion. Like how we have Ganapatyas, we have Kaumaras. Christianity is also just one more sampradaya for us. But changing and enriching for us is what? Changing the fundamental context of which they have, which they relate to life. Within new context, even if they're Christians, the way after they receive the powerful cognition, the way they relate to Christianity will be completely different, and they will be wholly enriched. So this is the major difference between enriching and conversion, as per me. And
now, the one point I wanted to bring to this conversation as like a conclusory, we can think for the next time we talk again and we join. I feel like the line that is there between conversion and enriching. Of course, yes, all the points are said today are extremely valid as far as enriching is a context. Conversion is basically an outside how it looks. Means as if you're a converted Hindu, you look a different way. You have your daily routine will be a different way as compared to the converted Christian. You look a particular way, and your daily routine will be a particular way. That is what the conversion means. But as far as enriching, it goes deeper. You look a particular way, and you have a particular context. You have a particular belief system or why you do what you do, and it goes deeper than that. It is not just length; it is more depth and breadth. So we have to see that in that way, enriching is a deeper line. But what about the question I want to bring up is, what about the those who don't look like converted Hindus? At least on the outside, we can look like one. You can say I respect the religion, even though I want to appreciate, and I know the context of why I wear Rudraksha, so I wear Rudraksha. I know the context for why I wear Bhasma, so I wear Bhasma, and I show that I'm wearing Bhasma to show that I am this part of this religion. It doesn't mean yes, you are enriched, you know the context, and you know context that the Rudraksha will have a lot of benefit, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to, that the wearing of it is the showing of its practice. It's not just to show that you are converted, but it's the wearing of it is to show that you are a practicing Hindu. And that statement we need to bring out in the Hindus today is that when it comes to being organized, right, there are symbols in Hinduism that show that you are a Hindu. Why don't we show those? Why don't we say that we are enriched by this tradition? This tradition enriches me, and hence I'll show how much I appreciate it and wear it, and it heals me and protects me. Wearing the kumkum, wearing the bhasma, wearing the jata, wearing the rudraksha, wearing the armbands, everything, wearing without upper cloth. These are the traditional Hindu ways of looking. We adapting these and living by these is the revival that Swamiji is trying to bring out. That is why he is again and again coming, and he himself is presenting himself in Hinduism. If you want to take the logo of what Hinduism is going to be, of Shri Kailasa and its Supreme Pontiff, who is Swamiji, that logo is Swamiji sitting every day in satsang without an upper cloth, with what Rudraksha on his chest, with the richness of the tradition. That is the ideal of Hinduism. Let's take that as an example. I wanted to bring this point out and encourage all viewers and everyone to understand the amount of revival that is happening and how the context is very enriching. But on the outside also, physically, just like how a converted converted Christian will have insignia that shows that he is converted with his daily routine and with his, in the same way, a practicing Hindu should also have that insignia showing that he is a practicing Hindu. We won't even say converted Hindu. That doesn't make sense at all. But we are practicing Hindus. We live that tradition. So we wear this insignia. So I wanted to address this point, and we can go on having a conversation about this again. We have to conclude.
yes, actually, so we're almost we've actually run out of time. So just before we conclude, we can go around the panel once and just everyone share the last statements before we conclude for today. Raja Maharaj has set the stage almost for tomorrow's Jeevadasatas, and we'll continue on this tomorrow. So yes, other panelists, Rajshekharan Ayya, Murali Ayya, Balasubramanyam Ayya, and Avimukta. The final last words before we end today's Jeevadasatas. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Maharaj. Actually, adding to what Raj Maharaj was saying, See, we always boast that Hinduism is a way of life. It is not a religion. Now that means like it is not enough if we just wear the Rudraksha or wear the Bhasma. We have to wear it being conscious of what benefit it brings us. When we say that it is beneficial, whether you believe or not, accept or not, we should not take it for granted. The person who is practicing it, if he wears the Bhasma, if he wears the Rudraksha, knowing the full benefit of it, fully conscious of the benefit of it, and be in the space of gratitude and respect for that benefit which is coming out of practicing that, then I think it will manifest immediately, it will manifest intensely, so that anybody who sees from outside will know, will even accept that yes, these things get the benefit. If we just tell verbally that these are the benefits you get of it, and you get it even without believing it, it might stop at the verbal level, it might stop at the argument level. But when we practicing Hindus, we actually proud of our tradition. We do it very consciously, we do it very intensely. Then I think the benefit will show in our very way of life, in our very being, and so that will inspire us, inspire others to accept our statement that it is beneficial even without accepting it, even without praying to any particular god or having any faith. So it is how intensely we are conscious of the benefit and how intensely we want to manifest it will what inspire those around us to come and recognize Hinduism for what we claim it is. This is what I want to add. Thank you, Maharaj. I hope I was heard clearly.
Yes, yeah, you heard. Yes, thank you, yeah, for sharing your views and opinions. Rajshekharan,
Nothing to add now. All right.
then we'll move on to Balasubramaniam. You can just unmute your mic alone. It'll be fine. Yes, yeah. Your last opinions. Anything you'd like to share before we conclude today?
Nothing much, Maharaj. Whatever Maharaj shared lastly puts me to contemplation. Maybe we'll discuss tomorrow.
Sure. Sounds great, yeah. And Avimukta, yeah, anything you'd like to add before we conclude today? Please go ahead.
Yes. So understanding the benefit is important. I just take 2 points and I'm trying to add up and with a little difference. Murali was just telling Bhasma is important, Rudraksha is important, and knowing the benefit is also important. I personally feel not necessary. Okay, whether I know the benefit or I don't know the benefit, that should be the lifestyle. I will give an example of Jain people. Okay, I've seen n number of Jain people. When I'm just talking not to the monastic people, I'm just talking about a people who is living in the outside world. They have the habit of going to mandir, their Jain mandir. Most of them, there are many divisions. We all know that, right? Jayambar, Digambar, so many divisions are there in the Jainism. Everyone with their regular traditional attire, morning they go, they do a short puja and come back in their traditional dresses. So when this discussion was happening, and after 10 o'clock, they'll go to their office and be there in the comfortable dress. So the tradition is comes, do we have to wear that? Do we have to have that kind of attire and dressing? What does it matter? So in that discussion, I'm just telling you only the summary. Probably in some other time, we will discuss about the entire discussions later. The simple is, what is the way of following religion is, yes, attire, as Maharaj said, the attire, vibhuti, kungmam, all these things are, very important. And as an individual, you have to be more comfortable. How you are comfortable wearing your t-shirts and pants. How you are comfortable sitting before computer. Same way you have to feel comfortable wearing your traditional attire also and display to the world. If that you could be able to do it, you are completely Singh, and you are completely a practicing Hindu. Unfortunately, most of the time we are living a dual life. We strongly feel our attires, our desires, our beliefs are only to our home and the God, not to display it outside. That is, I'm not just telling you have to be mandatorily display, but The idea is you have to feel comfortable in displaying it. When you start, hiding it or not comfortable about it, that's absolutely not done. That's then you are not a practicing Hindu. You have some problem somewhere else. That's a point I want to say as a summary, but this is worth expanding it some other time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aya. So, all the viewers watching us here today, if any of you had some click, had some revelation, if something is vibrating with you about what we have spoken from today's Jivat Satas, if you want to be a part of this change, want to be a part of shaping the future of humanity, shaping the future of Hinduism, shaping the future of Shri Kailasa, you can be a part of this change. All you need to do is visit the link being projected below, tinyurl.com/Hindu votes, and voice out your opinion, cast your vote as to what should be the stance Hindus take against religious conversion. Should Hindus accept it or not? I'd like to thank all the panelists who's joined us here today, Rajshekharan, Murli, Balasubramaniam and Avimukta as well. Thank you so much for taking time off and joining us here today. Hope all of you will be able to join us again tomorrow. So with this, it's time to enter into the meditation now. Prepare ourselves for the Nitya Satsang. Please sit straight with your head, neck and spine in a straight line. Close your eyes and bring your awareness to your Ananda Gandha. Visualize Swamiji sitting in your Ananda Gandha as Paramashiva with 25 heads and 50 hands. Now, vibrating throughout your entire body, chant the Mahavakya, Om Nityananda Paramashivoham. Om Nityananda Paramashivoham. Om Nityananda Paramashivoham.